Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. I am back. I am back. And we're going to have a good time tonight. We are going to talk about a topic that we don't really touch too often, but it is about toxic mother in laws. So if you have a toxic mother in law, or maybe you don't even know if you have a toxic mother in law, but my guest tonight is going to drop some gems. So I'm going to play this intro and then we're going to get right into it.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and booty walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog.
And we're back. Thank you all for tuning in again to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're dropping it on a replay, make sure you type replay. Let me know where you're tuning in from. All right. I'm going to bring my guest out of the waiting room.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Joy. Hey, again, right?
Right. I said I'd see you later. This is what that means.
Exactly. Everyone, I'd love to introduce to you licensed clinical therapist Joy with all capital letters. Huh.
Hi, guys. Happy evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again and again for saying yes. So Joy is a show favorite. If she sounds familiar, is because she was on last season, and our topic was normalizing family dysfunction. And I had several aha moments during that episode. I really did. And apparently other people did too, because my inbox was popping after that.
I love it. The ability for you to just provide a conversation. That's what it really ended up being, remember?
It really, exactly. So we have a welcome, Joy. Can you see it?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Quita. All right, let's get right into this topic of the night, which is toxic mother-in-laws. Why do you think this is such a taboo topic that people do not want to touch?
You know, it's this interesting bubble that comes with this role of mother-in-law. And there is this part where for so long we didn't talk about the things that were uncomfortable. We didn't challenge different roles in the family.
There we go. You already dropping gems already. Challenge the roles. Go ahead. I'm loving it.
And it ended up being the inside joke that got out. And now we are talking about what it can be, really, even in this toxic exchange between a mother-in-law and really that partner that comes into the family.
Well, I love what you said about the bubble. It is almost as if the mother-in-law is untouchable.
There it is. Because really, this is created within the family. You know, a lot of these interactions that we're going to be talking about tonight seem specific to the mother-in-law, but everyone in the family plays a role in how this keeps happening.
Absolutely. Let's get into that. But before we do, I found this interesting statistic. You let me know if you agree or disagree. All right. So one study found that 1 in 4 daughter-in-laws
Mm.
despise their mother-in-law, finding her controlling, amongst other words. And research has shown that daughters-in-laws resentment stems largely from mother-in-laws thinking that they are the ultimate authority on their son.
You just read out of some diaries of some of our viewers because I've heard this. I've heard this in different cultures, in different age groups. And it is something that, even if you think about Hollywood, they make movies about this stuff. So, this is something that can be shared of an experience
Mhm.
amongst many groups.
Exactly. What I found very interesting in this article that I just read was the last sentence when mother in laws think that they're the ultimate authority on their
Mm.
son, but he is a husband, right?
Yeah. There is this part that the experience of losing that son and how that deposits in that mother that would kind of even influence the way she reacts to the partner,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Because there's this fear of loss. There is this grief of the relationship changing that she is creating a barrier to.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
so that tells us more about the story between the mother and the son.
Wow. Well, we're definitely going to get into the stories. You're getting some more hellos.
Hi,
And,
Auntie.
oh, okay, here we go. She said, "Can we get straight into the thick of things? Who usually is the main culprit? He, the mom? Wait,
Okay.
can you?
Him
I don't
or
know.
his mother.
Him or his mother asking for a friend."
We have the same friend, okay?
Oh
You
my
know
god.
what? I like you kind of focusing on the root of, again, where is this source of this
Mhm.
toxic relationship? And I don't know really, and please help me in our discussion today, if it's always the same of who usually is the culprit. We'll use his word.
Mhm.
It could be different based on the relationship, where more of the son is kind of ensuring that this toxic cycle continues because it benefits
Mhm.
him, or it's just been normalized, or the consequences of breaking the cycle are difficult to face. But then you see the mother many times, like I said, unable to detach, unable to reassert into a appropriate, healthy role of support for this new partner. It can
Mhm.
sometimes be experienced both ways.
Right. I read in this article that the son is almost an emotional pillow for the mother.
Ooh. Even for us to spotlight our own people, I think it's important for us to start where we kind of in our culture come from. That
Oh, explain.
that mother many times is the head of the household, whether there's an absent present father or an absent father. That
Right.
this mother assumes this role, and her son then becomes kind of at that tier of shared authority to say, you end up being kind of an equal. I cry to you. I tell you my secrets. I feel you're responsible for my healing. You are put into this role to kind of even compensate for what she doesn't have for herself, but
Mm.
a lot. And so that bond is what is the survival mode for the family.
Ooh. Would it be for the family or be for the mother?
You know what?
Or
There's a lot of
all?
sons that take on feeling it is their responsibility. It's not, but it's something they share when it comes to Black sons and their mothers. Those are their queens, is the reference. And so
Mm.
feeling like her happiness is connected to his, that started long ago. when he was a
Wow.
child.
So another term that, as I was researching this topic, was the mother son enmeshment. When
Yes.
I read that, I said, "Oh my god!" Things just started clicking in my head because I've heard it, I've seen it.
Yes. and
Oh,
and it's real, and a lot of times people don't realize that there is kind of this destructive pattern because it seems so natural, or it works for us, or that's what my family generation after generation has always done. And sometimes that outsider, usually the partner that's marrying in, can see from the outside what's happening, and that can be difficult because everybody else kind of believes it's the way that things should be.
exactly. That, like you said, the person who's outside looking in, they have a better scope, or
Mm,
maybe a clearer
yes.
scope
Yeah.
on what is going on,
Right.
and then they would be the outcast or
Yes.
the other woman.
The other woman. And if you, in that mother son relationship, made him your partner at 9 years old, then you still kind of feel that different loss for him to take another.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we need to get rid of that ideology of telling the little boys, okay, you're the man of the house now? And his testicles have
Mm,
not even dropped out of his belly yet. And she's making him the man of the house.
right. And in that moment, that enmeshment seed is planted. Yeah.
Ooh.
Because that's not his original thought. That's not his original role that was given to him.
Right. He just wants to go out and play baseball. But now he has to think about how to get these bills paid at 9.
Yes. And the hard part is, on the outside looking in, you recognize that this is how they function, even if it's dysfunctional, because they think that it's love, they think that it's loyalty. And so now you have this other person coming in looking for that love, looking for that redirected loyalty to them, that can threaten the system.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roxy said mother in laws need to release their sons. You raised him, so let him go live his life.
Yes. And that's the thing. Thank you so much, Roxy, for highlighting. He needs you to love and support this life that he's created for himself. Right. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're honest, that's where the toxic parts really show up. Right. Is there's not this kind of, I have this empathy for mothers that do lose relationships with their adult sons. It's difficult. I think it's difficult for everyone.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to this point and plan of sabotage or creating this kind of negative energy on purpose, intentional, to
Mm,
destroy, that's when you're a part of the problem.
exactly. I feel that when this is where it's important to practice self-awareness and learning skills on how to raise your emotional IQ, because
Mm,
if you can step back and look outside of yourself, why am I jealous of my daughter-in-law? Well, the jealousy is a trigger of something from
mm,
within, but when you don't when you're not self-aware,
yes.
you react. It's like you're almost
Mm,
you because you're emotionally immature, even
yes.
at AARP age to elderly age, and these are just tantrums.
Yes.
Woo.
And I know we talked even on our last episode about when you are stressed, when you are overwhelmed, when you're going through just an obstacle in your life,
Mhm.
you actually regress mentally, emotionally. If you've ever realized when you're having some anxiety that you can't get your words together, or you can't remember things, or all these parts of you that work at 100%, when you're stressed, it's like you can't do what you normally would do.
Mm.
That happens too with these mother-in-laws. They're in such a state of that sadness, that depression, that anger, that really they're not functioning at 100%.
No.
They're not, because they would be able then to see how much you're hurting the son that you say that you love.
Yeah, but if you're right, and if they are within their own selves, again, back to that or lack of self awareness, they
Mm,
will make it all about them and
mm,
pointing the finger. And,
yes.
you got to look at yourself.
Yes.
That's why shadow work is very important.
Mm,
You agree?
thank you for saying that.
Yeah, shadow work is so necessary. But I understand why people will not go there because especially with black women, let's keep it real.
Yes.
We are these super black women and we operate in perfection, shame, guilt.
Mm,
So we're not going to touch that, right?
mm,
We're not going to touch that. But we can look at other people's faults.
exactly.
Girl, okay. May I get to some more of these comments are coming in. Roxy said, "Oh, I remember you, Roxy. I remember Roxy. Yes." Roxy said it's worse when a mother doesn't have a man
Say it,
does,
Roxy.
doesn't have a man of her own. She uses her son to fill this void, which causes serious issues on both sides.
Exactly.
But you know what? Even if the mom I see if the mom has a man at home or not,
Yes.
to me, it's the same because her husband can be emotionally absent.
Yes. And that's that absent part, because this is rooted in her own insecurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
This fear of losing control, right? This sense of not mattering in the same way. That
Mm-hmm.
really is kind of the fear. And that fear turns into this anger and this possessive, kind of misdirected, kind of just
Ooh.
destructive pattern of behavior. And it's one of those things where when you're in it, you don't see it because everything is justified. She's not good enough for him. They really believe it. She needs to be better with the children. They convince themselves that they're doing it for his own good. They're the only honest person that he has. And so to break that, wall down, to pop that
Mm-hmm.
bubble that we were talking about, that does take time.
Takes time and boundaries.
Yes.
So when you told me, yes, I love talking about boundaries, I said, let me change this topic right now.
Yes. Yes.
Roxy said, it's worse when the mother, okay, I read that. Excuse me. How about here? Yes, we see it from the outside with our own husbands, with our friends' husbands, with our own brothers.
Others. Yes.
And men always respect and honor your mom, but she doesn't belong in your relationship.
Can't serve two masters. You can't.
Oh man. All right. These everyone, thank you so much for your comments.
Yes.
So let's get into some characteristics. What time is it? We have a little bit of time. So she's always right without exception.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
This is a characteristic of that toxic mother in law. And for her word to kind of be the gospel, and really no one having the ability to correct or challenge her. That's where that comes from.
Why do you think people do not challenge the mother-in-laws? I have my thoughts, but I want to hear
Please.
from the professional.
No, oh, Lord, you're so silly. But please share with me.
Huh?
Share with me.
Oh, you want me to share? I think okay, I'm gonna keep it real. I think
Please.
sometimes people do not challenge mother-in-laws because sometimes we don't see it in ourselves that
Mm.
we are people pleasers, which goes back to self-esteem,
Yes.
which probably goes back, it's not even about the mother-in-law now I'm thinking it's really about the family of origin. So what is it that
Mm.
you feel, where is it in your brain where you feel that um older person can tell you anything and then you accept it? So I
Mm.
really think ingrained is really that people pleaser part of it.
Yes.
And maybe even controlling, because if I do everything she says, maybe she'll like me more.
And that's what I really think
Do you?
on both ends of this wall, right? There's a mom fearful of the loss of the relationship of her son. But then
Mm,
there's this daughter-in-law, like you said, that's fighting not to lose her position in relationship by that people pleaser
yeah.
reaction, right? So they're both fearful of loss, not mattering, not being a part of the family. But they're doing it really in the risk of hurting each other when they actually want the same thing.
Yes. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Yes, they want the same
Mhm.
thing.
And they
But
want
then,
him to be happy. They both do.
wait, you said because they want him to be happy?
And they also both want him to be happy.
Ooh, that's some good stuff. That's good.
Yeah, it's
I never
real.
thought about it like that.
But it gets covered up with all the extra.
Yeah. I see it as adult tantrums. Really, I do.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I'll keep it real. I mean, I see that with my parents,
Mm.
and it still hurts. Don't get me wrong, but the blow is cushioned a little because I realize that they have their unhealed, unprocessed trauma and that they're just projecting on me. And because
Mm.
I am a proud cycle breaker, I no longer fit that mold, you know? So, of course, I'm the outcast because I don't care how old anyone is. You're not going to talk to me with disrespect, or I'm not going to allow it and just, okay, because you're
Mm.
a family member. No, because I'm a
No.
recovering people pleaser. And I do know, and I feel like that probably can't come from daughter-in-laws also, is that
Yes.
maybe a fear of abandonment when they were younger and it's a blind spot.
Yes. I mean that really, and it's interesting even when you think about like how the mother's insecurities kind of even deposited in the son, connected to him finding a person that had this insecurity in her, that just
Oh,
reverted back to the mother that raised him.
I just learned that in group therapy last night. You're right, you attract to what you know. So more often than not, they marry their mother.
Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. And so then mother is like standing in a mirror of herself.
Exactly.
And she wasn't the one chosen, which really hurts.
Not good.
It's
Not good.
and you know that goes back to even for psychiatrists and psychologists. You know, I think about Freud and that mother son bond and the daughter father. You know that relationship and how that takes on. But yeah, that ability for her to be right, that was a pedestal that the family created for her, that everyone just ensures continues.
You know, I was just talking to a really good friend of mine I love dearly. She said, we were just talking about this a couple of hours ago about listening to the older people. And I'm like, no, not all the time. We were talking about that because they're just as toxic and they pass down those toxic traits and then we pick it up, but we
Yes,
don't
we
know
do.
any better. You
We
know, we
don't.
just don't know any better.
And you know, it's interesting
Mhm.
because some of those traits are then mislabeled as values, right? Because you have to be a respectable person to let someone say something bad to you because they're older than you. That means you're a good person. That's what was taught to us. But no, that is not really what it is. That's disrespectful. There's disregard for me, boundaries. and it was brushed under the rug. It was seen as you're being a good Christian, a good daughter, a good whatever it is.
I was just gonna say that term when people say, "Well, I'm gonna be the bigger person," or
Mm,
"That's not Christian." Like, no, I feel that it's an excuse to not hold firm boundaries. It is an excuse.
it is an excuse. But we in society turned it into a positive value
Absolutely.
to say, don't argue this, don't challenge this, be small, especially for women. Just be small, be invisible, be silent.
Yeah.
And now you are accepted, and now you are, and it was a lie from the beginning.
Right. And now that you say that about being small and fitting in this box, I think that also is bigger scope than the mother-in-law. Well, then what is it within me that I feel like I need to play small and fit inside this bubble and box? So now it's not even about the MIL. To me, it's about, okay, what's going on back here that I've
Yes.
witnessed or felt growing up where it was
Yes.
acceptable to be small and not live out loud.
Mm, right.
Girl, let me go back to number 2. She's dismissive.
Yes. Realizing that her opinion matters the most is going to make everyone else feel less than, but it's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
Yes.
What do you
What does
mean?
it, what does it feel like to decide who's right and who's wrong?
Oh, wow.
There's a
Oh.
godlike concept to that one. It's like I am the final word. I get to approve this and that. I have power. I have control.
I was just going to say the control. And again, I don't know, maybe they grew up not, or they probably grew up not being in control.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. But
But that's definitely one where it's like you have this person that's looking for approval and validation in her role as the partner to your son.
mm,
And well, if that's what she wants, that's the very thing I'm going to keep from her
ooh, damn,
on purpose. Remember?
on purpose. Number 3, she makes it clear she does not like you.
Again, how is it respectable to take that response from someone, but a mother acting that way, that's accepted too, right? To say, man, I wonder for you, when will she be good enough? What will be kind of that one thing where you feel like she deserves your son? I mean, that's what really it encircles, right?
Exactly. Exactly. This next point, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. She expects complete subservience.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for saying it out loud. Because for so long, even in our culture and our society, we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to rock the boat. And so you just put your head down. And that was out of love and loyalty. But it was so toxic to the relationship because no one should have that much authority over a relationship that's not about them.
Ooh, can you repeat that again? Let me write that down. That's
No,
good.
yes, no one should have that much authority in a
Wow.
relationship that has nothing to do with them.
Mm. This goes back to what we talked about for this next pillar is she has control issues.
Yeah, it goes through.
This is a fun one here. Oh, I need to get back to these comments. The comments are going to blow up after this next point. She doesn't respect your words, choices, or personal space.
Yes. Just treat you like a burden. just like you're not smart, you're incapable, really everything to drive you away.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on when the mother-in-law does not respect your personal space, whether it be uh, your home,
Yes.
personal items? What are your thoughts on that?
This is really where even the husband, the son, is important to this intervention of putting up a boundary to manage kind of what's going on. For mom to kind of invade and overstep, this is something that she can focus on, she can address. But if that partner, if her son does not buy into this or be a part of this, then it ends up being kind of two against one, right? Where
Yes.
the mom comes over without knocking, or she just kind of makes that home her space. You know what happens next. The wife goes to the husband, talk to your mom. He minimizes it. You're being too, don't be. She's trying. And then you end up feeling like you're wrong, and what you're feeling doesn't matter.
Mm,
And so it really has to be a conversation that starts with the husband and that wife.
I totally agree. I feel that when the union is a union, they can go together and talk to that mother-in-law, because I feel if they're not together as a cohesive unit,
Mm,
any cracks, that's where a mother-in-law can go right in through that fissure. And
yes.
so I was reading, of course, with this research, I was reading this article and it was talking about this movie. And in the movie, there was a family unit, the husband, wife, kids, and then the mother-in-law, husband, and some other nieces, nephews. So the husband and wife, they were approaching their milestone anniversary.
Right.
Well, the daughter-in-law, the wife, she didn't get it. She was planning on a trip. Well, then the mother-in-law took it upon herself and paid for the entire trip for all family members. So the wife was upset because
Right.
she said, "This is my anniversary." It was one of those monster-in-law type movies.
Oh, I
I
love
forgot
it.
the name of it. Yeah.
Yes.
And so the husband and wife got into it because the husband said, "Why are you acting like this? My mother is doing something nice for us." But in reality, the mother-in-law was being controlling
Yes.
because, well, I can't get the trip how I want it. I'm just going to invite
Yes.
everyone, even though there was no financial burden. That wasn't even an issue for her.
Right.
Her
But
her control.
even what you're describing, that's a narcissist. That's what the diagnosis would be of what it is for you to get to this point where if you're creating kind of these intrusive parts, kind of as an extension of like, I'm doing something good, but really you're just being invasive. And that ends up being kind of the whole performance or the whole response. It's like, you know what you're doing. You want me to feel bad. You want me to feel a certain way. And for a narcissist, there is this satisfaction of really having things their way, whether you like it or not. And no one can make me feel guilty or crazy or bad about anything. That's the
Wow.
rule of a narcissist.
Yes. This is where my learning curve is because of how I grew up. In some relationships, I've had narcissistic relationships.
Same.
I've always equated it to a male, but I know there are female narcissists,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been around more male.
And
Wow.
it is. It's one of those that either way you can kind of see in research that it's more male dominated. But the idea of the patterns of behavior, of
Mhm.
knowing and having the intention to divide and destroy and be deceptive, and on the outside creating a situation where you're untouchable.
Mm.
Ooh, takes a special type of person to
Ooh.
do that.
So for the listeners, what are your thoughts on this? Please drop it in the comments. I promise you, the comments are coming in. I'm going to read them, but let's just get through this list. But please keep the comments coming in because we're all learning from this. And now I'm looking at the rest of this list. This is definitely a narcissistic list. Look, she plays emotional games.
Mm. You know what you're doing? It feels like she's a puppeteer, right? Just pulling those strings.
Exactly. Exactly. This is sad. This next point, she engages in smear tactics. That is a true narcissist.
Yes.
That is my father's one of his many weapons of choice.
Tell me more.
Oh my God. Well, because I no longer fit that toxic pattern,
Yeah.
and he he's having an emotional tantrum.
Mm.
So, well, I'm not going to fight her. Well, I'm going to poison her name. So, yeah, he uses
Mm.
smear tactics because he's not getting what he wants because I'm no longer part of that toxic family system. No more.
Mm.
And the more, the firmer my boundaries are,
Yes.
he starts cranking up the
Oh,
smear attack.
yeah.
Ooh, he turned it up
Oh,
just
yeah.
like a
Yes.
stove. Woo.
Because it's supposed to work. It's supposed to make you regret. It's supposed to make you recant. It's supposed to make you come back and grovel and apologize and be submissive. And that's usually worked for him.
Right. The control.
Mm.
So I am no longer controlled in that aspect. I
Yeah.
cut those puppet strings. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm just everything under the sun,
Yeah.
whatever comes to his mind.
Mm.
But
And for that mother-in-law, it really is the focus of challenging this reputation that the partner has.
mm-hmm.
I need you to go away. I mean, that's the goal. So I
Mm,
have to get you to be seen a certain way, or I have to get you to respond a way so you look like you're the bad guy. And
woo.
there's always a point in the poison.
Say that last part again.
There's always a point in the poison.
Let me write that down.
There is.
I love
Because
it.
in the end, again, if you pop that bubble, you see that you are completely opposite of the person that you want to be.
Wait, let me process that. Say
Yeah.
that one more time.
If you pop that bubble, because we talked about this bubble that the mother-in-law lives in, where she's
Right.
untouchable. But if you pop that bubble and you actually hold her accountable for the smear tactic, then she would actually have to deal with really the negativity, the toxic, the damaging version of herself that she's become.
Mm.
How can you say that you love him or you want a good future for him when you do this to someone he's chosen?
Wow.
So a lot of it is them justifying what they're doing, but ignoring kind of how toxic it really is.
Yes. It sounds extremely self-serving. Next point. She's vindictive, spiteful, grudge holding, and punishing.
Yeah. And that partner coming in is going to feel it because everyone around them has been dealing it for 30 plus years.
Ooh.
This is who she is.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
there's something for her to express this and be tolerated by others in the family.
Yeah. The key word you just said, being tolerated. Let's put a pin in that because I want to go back to that. The last point is that she's completely self-centered and narcissistic. You just said that.
Yes. And that's what's in that bubble of her perspective, right? Because there's a lot of these mothers that if they actually dealt with the hurt and the source of their pain, they would actually deal with some of these problems in a more productive way and have a healthy relationship with their sister, their daughter-in-laws.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So back to this one right here about when you said how she's tolerated. Okay, so I learned this as well about this drama triangle. So I feel like a lot, especially when I get to the comments, I can't wait to go back and read it. But a lot of the direction has been pointed towards the mother-in-law.
Mm,
However, I also feel that it takes two or maybe even three, but because we stay in a drama triangle,
mm,
that you can't be controlled if you don't allow it,
mm.
right? So
Yes.
when I learned about the drama triangle, I feel like it's a low-key rescue by
Yeah.
letting you think so too?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're okay. So what is it? You are a victim
Yes.
because she's doing her saying her toxic ways.
Mhm.
Then you're a rescuer because you're not holding boundaries. Then you're a persecutor because then you'll talk about her
Yes.
to whoever.
To
So
whoever.
yeah, whoever it is, it's the discharge. But
Yeah.
I mean, it takes two.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on
Yes.
that?
I feel the same way. I mean, when
Do
you look
you?
at that triangle and you kind of see, again, the self-serving position that they post, right? To say, okay, whatever is the threat, then I will intervene in that style.
Mm,
Yeah. There's a lot of, balls in the air when we're kind of just in this very desperate, depleted, angry place.
right. Keisha said negative energy on purpose.
You're right.
That's real right there. Okay, there are a lot of comments. All right, I never understood these mother-in-laws complaining about child rearing rather than offering to fill in the fill in the gaps. Just help your grandchildren.
Yes. Yes.
I
And a lot
agree.
of it can be, you know, well, this is what I went through, or I didn't have anyone. And it's like, and how was that working for you? Why would you do that to anyone else?
Right.
Yeah.
And work on your own damn inner child instead of projecting on someone else.
But she's got to
True.
be the victim right now. Yeah.
Oh, Joy. Joy is not playing tonight. Roxy said because the wife doesn't want to disrespect the mother in law because of her husband. However, mother in laws need to stay in their place.
Roxy, you're right. I mean, it goes back to what that husband has identified of mom's role and her power. And whatever he kind of interacts with, she's going to kind of fill that space with her own interaction, right? To say, man, if you brush everything under the rug, you put me in the position to have to do the same. If you look at her and say, that is my wife, and how dare you speak to her that way,
Right.
then I can follow suit and have those assertive moments with her too. That's hard.
Exactly. Why do you think it's so hard for the son to
Really in
not
that
say
that
anything?
relationship, like I said, this child has been seen as an extension of his mother. He's feeling responsible even for her inner child in the way that she's raised him. And so she can't handle this rejection, this abandonment, and he feels responsible for that. Well, my mom's been through a lot, you'll hear. Everyone always leaves her. Who said that? Because that's not your original thought. That was something you inherited. That's been passed down generation to generation. Some families give Afghans. Your family gives trauma. You've been
Girl.
handing it down.
Ooh. So the son is taking care
Yes.
of his mother's emotional needs
Yes.
subconsciously. I think consciously and
Yes.
subconsciously. You think?
Yes, a little bit
I
of
don't know.
both because again, he's thinking it's in love. He's thinking it's in loyalty, but he doesn't realize how it destroys and divides his marriage.
Woo. It is definitely a distorted way of thinking. Wow, I never thought about it like that. All right, we have another comment. Oh, old folks will respectfully get this. I wish I had some confetti. I am so with Blind Guy and his wife on this comment. Old folks will respectfully get this smoke. There's too much help out here so mother-in-law can get it together to be able to celebrate her son's decisions.
Mm. And that's what you're really missing out on. The celebration.
Yeah.
This new relationship that actually does need you, right? There are great things that you can be a part of to support this marriage. That's the
Mm.
hard part to say, like, of what you think you're going to lose, you actually end up costing yourself
Wow. Wow. That's
because you could have more if you would be less.
let me write that down. No,
She's
that's
missing
good.
it. She's missing the good moments.
She is definitely. Um, Roxy said no to subservience. Yeah,
Be your own person.
absolutely. It's funny when I love what you said about being your own person because that reduces some stress because you're
Mhm.
not always thinking about what other people think of you.
Yes.
You're not over explaining your thoughts, actions, emotions. You stand in your truth and in your
Mm,
knowing your true self, like capital S self, right?
mm,
Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, control herself. And oh, this is a good one. Blind Guy said, I want to know why the moms do not ever like their son's rock star wife and will accept her daughter's scrubs. Oh, her daughter's scrubs with how about that with open arms? Never mind. I think I might that might be another episode. So I guess what she's saying is how the mother will not like the daughter-in-law, but when the daughter brings home a scrub, she has
yes.
open arms.
Well, there's not the threat there, right? It's so funny when you shared this topic with me. What was ringing in my head was an old saying. Now I'm going to totally date myself here, but an old saying my mom would always say, which is, your son is your son until he takes him a wife, but your daughter is your daughter for the rest of your life. And
Wow.
that is real to say there's something about that daughter where the role of the mother kind of still can be maintained.
Mm.
Right? Because every daughter kind of goes through that like teenage rebellion, and then we realize our mom was right in our 30s, and then we maybe rekindle in an adult relationship. And so that doesn't threaten this male partner or your partner who's going into a marriage with you. Mom can still assume that same position. But
Mm.
it's the difference sometimes of that threat of that other female, which it can be seen in history, in the Bible. I mean, there's it's been going on forever.
Right. Yeah, she sees her, like you said, the threat, as the other woman.
Yes. Yeah. But it's so ingrained to be acceptable or kind of a rite of passage, or all of these things, when it's like, no, it really is toxic and destructive.
Absolutely. And we pass it down like family heirlooms. They can keep that. Can
Hmm.
keep it. Okay. Blind Guy said, wait, I never felt guilty or crazy or bad. I may be the narcissist, but no, I'm not claiming.
Ah, so silly.
That's funny. And she also said, I had to write it down too. You can be more as a mother in law if you be less, also known as just fall back. Yes, just fall back.
Less is
Just fall
more.
back. Go
So
heal yourself. Then the heal back will naturally come.
I love that. Heal back. Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of, wait, real quick, does this sound familiar? And I want people in the chat. I'll see if I can post this. What sounds familiar with these mother son enmeshments? A mama's boy, an
Mm,
overprotective mother, a substitute for a spouse, and the mother-in-law will be a challenge to their marriage.
yes. Yes, that mama's boy. I'm telling you, these are things that people experience across the board. It's these characteristics of being right up under her, always doing what she says, wanting her approval, all of those things that mama boy kind of encompasses. And if you don't grow out of that,
Ooh,
then you won't grow into
ooh,
anything else. Yeah, yeah. You have to grow out.
ooh. Why do you think they do not grow out of that?
Because the relationship kind of requires him not to. Because a lot of that subservient response is how she feels loved. Remember, that's her definition. So he has to
Wow.
maintain that to keep her happy, which is the goal for both of them. So then it becomes the goal of his partner, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think subconsciously he may do that? Because what if a son doesn't like being around his mother, yet he won't
You
stick
know
up for
what?
his
Yeah.
wife?
And that's probably one of those things where that boundary had been created prior, right? To say, like, if there is this point where this child realizes, you know what, something in this relationship is not healthy, or I'm not able to manage it, or it's just destructive, and they've created that boundary, or they kind of have this awareness of some toxic traits, they can actually ensure, even with that relationship, that marriage, that, you know what, I will address when things are wrong or uncomfortable. But
Mm.
it really is one of those things where if you don't have a relationship with your mother and you can separate, then that will show up in your marriage, and that will be a benefit.
Yeah. Wow. So, as you know, we are solution based here at Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. So, what are some ways to be solution focused in these enmeshed relationships, these toxic enmeshed relationships?
It's so interesting because I use a tool that kind of helps when relationships start breaking down. It always makes me think of a car. Who do you call when your car breaks down?
A mechanic.
Ooh, yes. Well, I call AAA.
Okay.
And so I want people to understand, even in real life, there are AAAs to relationships. And so I have kind of this focus of starting with appreciation. When you're dealing with a difficult situation or a difficult conversation, that person first needs to hear this positive connection from you. So if you have that moment with the mother-in-law, or you're kind of trying to let your husband know what's going on, let them start with the good, to say, you know what, you really matter to me, mom. I appreciate who you've raised him to be, or thank you for choosing me and loving me and marrying me, and give, like, whatever it is. I always tell people to start with the positive, and then kind of from there, asking questions. That's that second A, right? To say, you know what, let's check in. I need to ask you some questions. I need to get some clarity. I need to kind of share how I feel. And then, really, in the end, kind of acknowledging the plan, to say, I've got to set this boundary. And this
Yes.
is not what works for me. And even for the husband to say, you know what, I need to acknowledge that I'm uncomfortable when she comes in without calling. Or I need you to speak up when I assert myself at dinner parties and your mom shuts me down. You need to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge the truth before you end that conversation. So I would give the focus of the triple A's for people to try that.
That is awesome. I never heard of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love acronyms because it's easy and it sticks. So,
Yeah.
it's the ability for you to just say, you know what, I'm going to start with the positive, but I'm going to be real. And then I'm going to have a commitment of the plan and action that we've all decided we're going to be a part of.
It's like a compliment sandwich.
Oh, yeah. It's like when your mom snuck in the vegetables and you're like, I didn't even know that was there. Haha.
And it's good for you.
And it's good for you too.
So then what if the mother-in-law, so you've practiced the triple A's,
Yes.
you presented it on a nice silver platter, but mother-in-law slapped the platter out your hand. My mom-in-law is just not,
Exactly.
she's not with the program. What do you
Exactly.
do next? Or
So
do you
even
do
for
anything?
you, because in the middle of that conversation, while you're asking questions, you're going to feel the vibe. You're going to kind
Mhm.
of recognize if she's going to be a part of the solution or the problem.
Ooh,
And so, depending on if she's a part of the problem and actively in the conversation is showing that, then
right.
your acknowledgement sounds differently. It's you acknowledging that you will no longer participate in this way with her and that access to my house is between these hours. I'm just acknowledging for you what now is going to happen, even if I am the only one who wants to participate in this. But I need you to know that from now on, this is what you can expect from me. This is what I expect from you. And to have access to me, my home, my family, my life, this is what we're looking for.
Wow. I love that because I feel when you do that, you're creating like your own agency for
Yeah.
yourself. Because I feel like if you hold boundaries in a way where you want the person to change to
Yeah.
make yourself feel better, but you're still giving that person that control.
Mm,
So it's almost like a God complex almost.
yes.
Yeah, am I saying that right? That
Yes.
makes sense.
But you taking back your power with that change and acknowledgement to say, even for you to say, this is now how we are going to engage. And you
Mhm.
then leave it up to them, just like you would with that child who has a tantrum on the floor. When you're done, you can join the family. We'd love to have you. We're having dinner tonight. But when you're ready, you can join us. You're
I
doing the same thing.
love that.
Yeah. With your husband backing you.
Yes, it has to be.
And
Yeah,
it has to be.
because that's when the fissures come in and
Yeah.
someone who's controlling, that's all they need to see.
Division.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's some good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add on to any solution? Because that triple A was
Yes.
amazing.
And the biggest thing for these women, right? And even in this position of the one that's coming into the family, I want you to remember there's a reason that you were picked for that family. That there is an ability for you to kind of maybe even make some positive changes, be a positive example, and remember that he chose you for a reason. So be true to that self. Don't let other people change the you that he fell in love with.
I agree, but I'm asking a therapist because
Okay.
I don't have that. Do you feel that sometimes spouses marry their mother or father?
What I think there's always a sprinkle of comfort and characteristics that are familiar to you. To say that really everyone has a type, but that type was kind of something you had ingrained in your kind of development growing up.
Mm,
So, mom will have some kind of influence. Dad will have an influence. Sometimes the community, the culture, the church. There's a lot of deciding factors.
mm. So
Yeah.
the reason why I asked that There's this show I stumbled upon on YouTube. I think it was called Blue Therapy. It was You saw that?
I'm gonna have to write this down now.
It was so good. There was an offshoot of that Blue Therapy show, but it took place in the UK.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
That show was amazing. But on the offset, well, let me talk about Blue Therapy real quick. Let me tell you, it was three couples and they went in for couples counseling, and it was 8 sessions and they showed everything. They
It
kept
gets,
that camera right there. There was
it gets
no
real.
editing. Oh,
And
it,
how many times did they bring up mom issues?
not in the beginning, as
Yeah, yeah.
most I
The
think
therapist,
therapists
yeah.
say.
But
Yeah.
it's always comes, when you start digging.
Yes, it's the blind spot starts to uncover.
Yeah.
And in the show, they each of their partners come to find out when they start pulling layers back were reminiscent of their mother or father.
Yes.
And it literally blew them off of the chairs.
Mm.
Woo!
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't treat it, you will repeat it.
Let me write that down.
Yeah. You
I
will.
like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Because a lot of that can represent a connection that's different, than maybe that mother-son relationship, right? To say, man, I've always wanted to just make my mother proud and have this
Wow.
connection, right? And sometimes finding that woman is the extension of wanting that healing and wanting that attachment that they might not have got from their mothers. And so, yeah, it's all just a continued story sometimes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's some good stuff, Joy.
Yeah. It's
Ooh,
interesting. People are interesting.
very much so. All right, here's our last question. Unless you all have questions for Joy, have them come in because we're starting to wrap up. All right. Does this toolkit, I guess, talking about the AAA,
Yes.
include the backup plan to apply for jobs for out of state? I've been in this. I mean, my friend has been in this game for 30 years, and I'm just wondering,
Asking for a friend. You know
asking for
what?
a friend.
Yes, I think it's, available in every state. But, it's one of those things to say when you don't know where to start and you have to have a difficult conversation or you have to talk to a difficult person. This is a way to kind of guide you so you don't lose your point in what you have to say.
Right. I love that. I feel for myself, man. I think now that I'm thinking, I had an aha moment just now. I think because I'm so emotionally depleted with high conflict people, my patience is very low,
Yeah.
and I don't want to argue back and forth, but I also don't want to deal with. I just
Mhm.
remove myself, or
Yeah,
and then I'm still learning on how to remove myself with certain people too. It's still a work in progress,
it
but
is.
I'm literally emotionally depleted from any
Yes.
of that. I'm
Yes.
tired.
And it's healthy for you to say no and set limits.
I love that. I love that. So we have several people in the chat. If you all scroll up, I dropped Joy's Instagram and her link tree, and it's a live button. So, matter of fact, why don't you go click on the Instagram link, follow Joy, tell her hello. She has a great page, and I love her videos on her Instagram are hilarious, and yet you still learn. So please follow her and definitely go to her link tree. I will drop it again in the chat in case you all did not see it. But Joy, it's always such a pleasure.
Thank you
I'm
so
sure the
much.
way you deliver your your delivery, I'm sure you see a lot of healing moments with your clients, which is, I think, beautiful.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
really do. I really feel completely honored to hear these stories, sometimes for the first time, and to
Mm,
have that trust and create that safe space for them.
Yeah.
It's something I'm lucky to do.
Oh, do you mind before we get off? Do you mind sharing about how you created Finding More Joy? I really would love to hear that story.
Well, yeah, like
Wait,
many
wait,
of
wait. If you
you.
all want to hear the story, drop a one in the comment section. Just drop a one right down there. Okay. So let's hear it.
Yeah, so when the pandemic started, this is kind of the dream I had because I was stuck at home, really isolated from friends and family. And I had felt myself just experiencing some depressive moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got to this point where I wondered, is anyone else feeling this way? They don't tell you how to get through a pandemic, you just have to get through it.
Right.
And I know I needed someone to talk to, and I wondered if other people wanted to be heard. And so I felt like I, in the middle of pandemic, needed to find more joy in my daily activities.
Oh, I
And
love
so
that.
that's where Find More Joy came from, just as a brand. And I wanted to help people find more joy in all of these different moments in their life, even the lessons, and really just kind of being the best version of themselves. So that's what I did during the pandemic.
Mm, really? So,
Yes. And I never did videos. I didn't even have an Instagram. And I would have to like YouTube how to make it. It was a long process, but yeah. And now it's almost at 1,000 followers. I'm so excited.
wow.
Yes, thank you to each and every one of you of just joining me on this journey. It's something that you don't have to walk alone. So come join me over at Find More Joy. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and my link tree. I am taking new clients. I am a private licensed therapist. Been doing this for about 12 years. Let's take a while, to get to know each other and let's change our lives.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So if you all heard anything, if you really liked this episode tonight and you'd love to support the channel, I dropped a link in the description box. You can buy me a coffee or some water for my next podcast. You can just go ahead and click the link and it'll take you straight to my buy me a coffee page. Just to support the content if your soul vibrates. But Joy, did you want to leave with any last words?
I'm just so encouraged of what
Well,
you are doing on this platform.
thank
I
you.
want you to just know, as a Black woman, girl, you make
Mm.
me proud. So proud of you.
Thank
And thank
you.
you. Thank you for including me tonight.
Thank you so much. Oh, you know what? One last thing. Joy, guess what?
What?
You are a Black girl that has her shift together, ma'am.
Let me find out. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let me know what your thoughts. Matter of fact, follow me on Instagram, please. Black girls getting their shift together. Also, go to Facebook. Follow on Facebook. And if you'd like to join the private Facebook group, it's Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together Vibe Tribe, where we take the discussion further and we talk about it in a safe, non-judgmental space. And we always talk about, what are your thoughts about tonight's topic? And sometimes people don't really feel comfortable going live, but it is a private group. So make sure go to Facebook and request it. I too am taking new people in the group. Good
Okay,
night,
well,
everyone. Thank you
good
so much,
night.
Joy.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti. Black girl magic, melanin popping. Whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls